Hey everyone, it is Rob Ryder on Saturday, September 12th, 2015. This will be my ex's birthday. Happy birthday, Kim. Congratulations on being a grandmother for the first time. How long has it been now? 12 days ago. Madeline Marie, September 1st, 2015. And had it not been for her kind heart, probably wouldn't be here now doing these kind of videos. So thank you very much. And I'm trying to pay Brian, her brother, back right now. Pay it forward. Not really. But it's just funny how that all works out, that now I'm helping her brother, who has a problem with these people here at the Florida Department of Children and Families. So these people here, Secretary Mike Carroll and his gang are the ones that steal your kids and sell them into slavery, or take a man's money till he doesn't have any more, and then put him in jail. My version of Michigan did that to me maybe 5 times. You're doing something one minute, next thing you know, hey, you're being put in a car and you're going to go to jail. And nobody knows where you went to unless they go look. No one would know that you were in jail. So, yeah. It's time we do something with people like this. And while we don't have the civil authority, we have the spiritual armor of God. We're supposed to go out and just tell it the way it is, tell the truth, and go find the ordained civil authority, because all authority is ordained by God. So it says in the New Testament. I think that's Romans chapter 13. I'm sure it says it other places too, but that's where it sticks out the most. But hey, before we talk about these guys, just to show you how crazy this system is, that it isn't just a department in an organization that's corrupt. It'd be the whole thing that you call a county all at one time. And, all right, so this is the public record. Right, it came from... This is out of the Michigan EDU, so the University of Michigan library system of some kind on Michigan county histories. And to me, it's a public record. It is what it is, unless it's rebutted. Whatever this says is the truth. It's a book of authority that I could bring into court and say, well, this says this here. And unless you show me something that says different, then this is the way it is. And while this is kind of hard to read, I'm going to show you what it says. It says the legislature of what claimed to be the state of Michigan, although it was not, then recognized as such by the National Congress, so it was not the legislature of the state of Michigan. So somebody, some unknown entity, apparently passed an act on March 24th, 1836, organizing the county of Kent and providing for the election of the proper officials. Okay, well, what that's obviously saying is the thing that we call here where I live, the county of Kent, which is, the government as far as they're concerned. I'm going to show you their CAPR account in a minute, or their comprehensive annual financial report. And, right, but they were formed by a legislature that said they were the state of Michigan, but they were not, because Michigan had not become a state yet. And so, it's a simulated legal process using color of law, and anything that has the county of Kent on it, claiming authority over you is some private entity committing a crime. So the county was organized, 16 townships, okay, and then added more later. The county was given the same name as the township of Kent. Now, this is territorial time, and so Kent Township was the size of the county that Kent County is today. Because at one time there was only one county, it was all of Michigan. Wayne County covered the whole state. Right? Had lots of townships then. And as they got organized enough or big enough or whatever they did to decide, well, we're going to call that a county and do a split, well, that's when they did it. Nevertheless, the village was not incorporated, but an annual meeting. So the county of Kent is a village. Apparently, right? Because the village was not incorporated. But in an annual meeting held in April, at which the bounty of $5 was offered for wolves killed within the town. And for first time, the inhabitants took part in a presidential election, although but comparatively few of the residents had here long enough to be voters, been here long enough to be voters. Yeah, we didn't tell everybody. We had a small group of mainly the Democratic Party, and 64 for one and 7 for another. Now back at this time, I don't know if 1836 they had split, but in 1805, in that time, there was one party called the Democratic Republican Party. One party, the Democratic Republican, or the Republican Democrat. I think it was a Democrat Republican. And it was the one going against the Whigs back in the day, but it was a party called the two that we have now, which are really just one, split, and so they cover both sides of the bet. On and on and on. But so at the same time, the beginning of the Episcopal Society was also made when some burgher was sent to Grand Rapids in 1836 as a lay leader. Led to the call for organization of a church and a meeting held on October 6th, at which time St. Mark's Church of the village and county of Kent was given birth. Well, now we have separation of church and state. We still have this place called the county of Kent. So I keep wondering, well, do they just split this? Because, obviously they're using the word county of Kent, and it's part of something. And this was organized about the same time, and this is the Episcopal Church, which would have been the Church of England under the rules of the Church of England, the Acts of Religion, I think they call them. In which it said way back in the day that the Bishop of Rome has no jurisdiction within the realms of England. And what they were doing is they were setting up this society, not just in Kent County, but every county, every state, across the nation, apparently set up by the Freemasons. And the jurisdiction is United States of America, which is actually, United States of America is under King George III and his successors. Because in the Treaty of Paris, Treaty of Peace, 1783, just after the war, very first paragraph, King George is speaking, and when he gets done, he says, in there, between all the commas and other bullshit he says, he is the King of United States of America. Not the United States of America. No. That's in the Articles of Confederation, and that is the sovereign federal government. But that isn't it. It's United States of America, like is on your passport, where your picture is. Right? You're not really in the passport book. You're in the inside cover. And if you read what it says on the next page, it says herein named. Should be, let to do as they please, and you're not herein named. Your name is on the frickin' front cover, backwards, putting you in this inferior jurisdiction. Well, inferior jurisdiction with an inferior status. And that county of Kent, as a corporate body politic, is a little black hole, and it doesn't want to let me out. Right? Everything stays in there. They're not connected to the state. The officers that are elected to the county of Kent aren't actually elected by the election laws of the state of Michigan. But then neither are the state reps or the House of Representatives or the senators, state or federal. There are not any of them that are elected according to the Michigan election law from Michigan. In fact, Roe had Senator Durbin's office sent her a letter that said they couldn't get, they didn't have contact with the Secretary of the Senate. The Secretary of the Senate is the one that the senator is supposed to take a copy of his certificate of election that he's supposed to get from the governor and give it to the Secretary of the Senate. So we asked for his. They said they didn't have any contact with the Secretary of the Senate. Go figure. They're not elected. Welcome to America. Anyways, I showed you all this to show you this, right? So this is saying the county of Kent is not the government. They do not exist as the government. It's not part of the state. Kent County is the political subdivision of the state of Michigan, the administrative arm of the state of Michigan, the state government. The county of Kent is a private corporation, probably ecclesiastic, has its own courts with black robe priests. And, right, they're charging you with breaching your promise or breaching the peace or somehow, something other than a state statute. They may write it on the piece of paper, but they're not going to check a box and say that you violated that state statute, and they won't read it into the court record as the state statute. Right? They'll say you've been charged with disturbing the peace. Right? They want you to believe that's what it is. Well, what charge is that? What jurisdiction is this? Now they're going to write down a statute number that looks like it's out of the state statute, but do they have the jurisdiction to charge you with a state statute? These are the things you find out when you go study that no, they don't. So it's a really crazy system. But this place here, nevertheless, it's got a lot of jack. So let's look at his CAFR account. And before we go to the front, I'll just show you what it says here. This is on the 26th page, the management's discussion and analysis, a good page to read if you just want to get a quick idea of, who's who in the zoo and what kind of numbers we're talking. As management of the county of Kent, Michigan, right? So they didn't call themselves the government. The management of the county of Kent. We offer our readers the county's financial statement, this narrative overview and analysis of the financial activities of the county for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2012. We encourage readers to consider the information presented here in conjunction with additional information that we have furnished in our letter of transmittal. So this isn't everything there is to be said. It's in their letter of transmittal. We need to get that. I just read about it's just funny. For whatever reason, I was looking at the definition of transmittal just the other day, and it's the thing that goes with a certificate for a security to show that there's been a transfer of property. So it's a legal document, basically. It's the receipt, I guess we would call it. All amounts, unless otherwise indicated, are expressed in thousands of dollars. Okay, so what kind of highlights we got? The assets and defined outflows of resources of the county of Kent, body corporate, body politic, exceed its liabilities and deferred inflows of resources at the close of the most recent fiscal year by, that would be $525,051,000. Of this amount, $161,375 unrestricted net position may be used to meet government ongoing obligations to citizens and creditors. Wow. That's saying that the county of Kent, after, everything's settled, is $500 million ahead. And yet they're still going to charge people property tax. These are the people that are going to charge you taxes, right? They already got $500 million sitting in the bank, but they're still going to charge you property tax. You'd think that people would care about stuff like that. But wait, there's more. The government's total net position increased $6,896,000 because county of Kent is not the government. Kent County may be. And it's already ahead, so this $163 million, well, they don't need it in the government, so we can use it for what we want to, is what the county of Kent would say. Of this amount, $161 million may be used to meet the government's ongoing obligations, but wait, there aren't any. The government's already flush. They got $7 million in the bank. They don't need any more. So I guess, this is available for somebody to put their fingers into. Actually, it's all available. This is all overcharged. It should all come back to the people. What was it that when you read some of these charters the way they're written, that they could either do this way, whatever this is, where you You never extinguish the debt, you just keep servicing it, and that's what they do. They never pay the debt off. They just keep servicing it, extending it out. Give us an extension. We'll keep paying on it. Because they're paying themselves, basically. And, you only have to, a government entity only has to have a couple of months' worth of funds in the bank at any one time. Right? And they got, to meet its obligations, and they have $500 million in the bank above and beyond, and it just goes on and on and on in here. But I'm not going to spend any more time on it. I'm just saying it isn't just one agency in the state. This is the County of Kent, Michigan, in their comprehensive annual report, saying they got $500 million in the bank. That's pretty good deal for them. Okay, but enough on that. We'll move on now. Let's go back to our friends here. And this is what's going on here. So my brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law, Brian's brother, or Kim's brother, Brian, who I've known since he was 9, so he's my kid brother. He's had his run-ins with child support, and what they do to him is they keep suspending his driver's license. And so recently he got stopped, and they say you got to suspend a driver's license, and yada yada yada. Well, $300-400 later in bills, he's paid for it. But child support saying they're not going to they're not taking the suspension off because he owes them money. Now Brian's got a court order that shows that he doesn't owe any money. There's a line on there that says he doesn't owe any more money, and he's got this other piece of paper that says they're going to, garnish him $575 or whatever the numbers are. However they were doing this back in the day. So, there's a lot going on. Well, he had recently had reason to go down to the Veterans Administration Hospital in Florida, or one of them. And I'm going to stop right now. If you're a veteran, know a veteran, want to help them out, apparently there's a thing going on, and it could be for some time, and maybe you already know about it, but its initials are the SSF, V as in Victor. So that would be spouses, survivors, families, veterans, campaign, or whatever the heck they call it. And but basically it's to help veterans pay their monthly payments. And so Brian had found out about this, and he went down and talked to him, and sure enough, they're going to pay this money's already earmarked, so it's in the account, so it needs to be used, right? This is the good thing, so go get it and use it. But they're going to pay it. It looks like they're going to pay his rent, pay his utilities, and pay off this payment he has on a vehicle, because it says they have money for auto repairs and all sorts of stuff. And so he had to go down there, and one of the other services that they have is they have legal service. And of course, he had talked to me a few times. I said, well, Brian, go show that lawyer and let me do a little research here, and I may send you something else to send on this agency called the Florida Department of Children and Families. And by gosh, I did find something to talk about. And so Brian had gone down to the VA hospital, and happened to be the right day when there was a guy. You can tell this all haven't sent because he's only there twice a month on a Tuesday, and this is the Tuesday he's there. And just as they're talking about this, the dude walks by the door, and the lady he was talking to about this Sam F Frank V Victor SSFV program. So, oh, there he goes right there. And so, okay, and Brian was done with her anyways, and boom, walked out the door. Did the kind of thing he does. He's a palm shaker. Went up, hey, how you doing? My name's Brian Keith Taylor. I need some help with. And so he showed him these documents, his court order, saying that he didn't know anything, and this other thing saying that they were taking money out. And the lawyer's looking, and I said, he's kind of baffled. He said, hey, you do have a case here. Right? He said, and he went on. He said, most people that come here, they're really behind in their rent or their child support, but they don't have any evidence. But wow, Guy was surprised to see evidence that, hey. And then Brian hit him between the eyes. He said, well, I'm glad you believe so, because I want you to file a complaint for me with the special grand jury in accordance with 18 U.S.C. 3332. And at first the attorney, apparently didn't really understand what he said, didn't really register. And then he said, what was that? And he said, I want you to file a complaint with the special grand jury and, of course, 18 U.S.C. 3332. And Brian said, write it down on the paper. And the guy did. He wrote the number on the piece of paper. Well, then he gave Brian his business card. So there's valuable consideration. He took Brian's papers and gave Brian a business card. Man, they traded paper. And the guy went on to do his thing. And when Brian got back, what I have to show you soon is what I had written up for him to give to an attorney. And it's been sent to the attorney, and they really don't like what they've been presented with. And they called yesterday to try to, well, I don't know if they tried to pawn it off on somebody else or they were just telling the truth. They said, look, we need to transfer this case. They called Brian. Just like 2 days later, after they've had a chance to review the papers they were given, they called Brian and said, look, we need to transfer this up to Jacksonville where the court case was. And old Brian, Johnny on the spot, said, oh, no. You have a contract with the government to give legal assistance to veterans, and I'm a veteran, and I came to you, and you said I have a case. And I demand that you file a complaint with the special grand jury. And as that conversation went on, the guy was trying to, he's sort of like fighting fish, man. He was really resistant at first. Towards the end, didn't have much fight in him. He said, okay, well, I got to call you back Monday or something like that. At that point on a Friday, he just wanted to get out of it, and go home, I guess. And good for Brian. I mean, what else was he going to do? Let's just leave it there for today. But let me show you what they have to deal with that they didn't have to deal with before. And then after this one, we'll go look at Michigan, and I'll show you how you can go through your states just looking for keywords. Taking a little bit of time, putting things on a scratch piece of paper, cut and paste, copy and paste, whatever you call it. Do it 15, 20 times, and pretty soon you say, oh, I see what's going on. At least I believe so. But let's look at these guys first. So this is the Florida. They call themselves the Florida Department of Children and Families. But they also have an acronym. What do they call themselves? So, first of all, Mike Carroll has more than 25 years as a satanic sock puppet with this company. Department of Children and Families, overseeing programs ranging from substance abuse to mental health, family safety. Yeah, you're just a frickin' angel, Mike. That's why they made you the frickin' secretary. All right. Well, we're going to find out. Let's see. That didn't really tell me. I think it's DHS. I think that's what they call themselves. All these people seem to have some kind of acronym they use. Well, let's go take a look. So, Department of Family and Florida Department of Children and Families, right? That's what that says. And Florida Department of Children and Families, not Lylies. Department of Children and Families. Department of Children and Families. Department of Children and Families. Yep, it's all the same, and that's their email address. And well, what would a government agency be doing with a .com email or website? Right, that would make all the email addresses .coms, and that would be like Hillary Clinton using a private email instead of government email. I thought this was part of Florida, state of Florida. Well, as we're going to find out, it isn't. They have an EIN number, and this is actually, it's either a private company or somebody trying to pretend to be an Indian tribe with this address. But this is what the law says. So I went to look to see, I just went and searched the Florida statutes to see how their child support system was set up, and it said in Florida statute 20 20-19. I don't remember the exact way they number them. I don't have the exact number, but that's what it is, 20.19. Department of Children and Family Services. There is created a Department of Children and Family Services. I didn't capitalize it. That's how they did it. That means that's the proper name for that entity, Department of Children and Family Services. But wait, what do they call themselves? Florida Department of Children and Families. Well, that isn't the same. The department, the state-created agency is called the Department of Children and Family Services. So who the hell is the Florida Department of Children and Families? Well, I think they're trying to call themselves a 501c. But what they are doing is they're acting like an agent, this is through agency, between somebody who may owe some money for his children's support and the agency that's trying to collect it, the Department of Children and Family Services, by being your agent and attorney through this place called the Florida Department of Children and Families. That's their job, is to get in between you and your business. And so you're never, so if you're ever arguing with these people, you're talking to the wrong people. These are the people here that are collecting the money. Right? And if you're going to the Florida Department of Children and Families, that would be the incorrect office, because it's really a private corporation. This is the place. And so then it goes on to say the mission of the Department of Children and Family Services is to work in the partnership with local communities to ensure safety, well-being, self-sufficiency of the people served. The department shall develop a strategic plan fulfilling this mission and establish a set of measurable goals, yada, yada, yada. You know, I didn't really say anything there about it taking your money. Because, you know, we have all this credit and we're not getting to use it because people like this are doing all this antitrust activity, because now that you understand they're not the government and they're taking your money, well, who are they to take my money, to take me to jail? Who are they to put a frickin' hold on my license? Who are they to do anything to me? It's Kmart. If the state has a problem with me, it better be the Department of Children and Family Services I'm dealing with. And they never contacted Brian. They never contacted anybody in Florida. And there will be a secretary for the Secretary of Children and Family Services. The head of the department is the Secretary of Children and Family Services. Well, that's his proper title. And this guy's called Secretary Mike Carroll, Office of the Secretary. Not the same. Just not the same. Where are we here? It gets better. Then it goes on to say, in this other section, 114.05, public officers, employees, and records. See, anybody who's appointed to an office should have a certificate of appointment. By God, look at that. Issuance of letter of appointment, confirmation by Senate, refusal, or failure to confirm. When any vacancy in an office is filled by appointment, which requires confirmation by the Senate, the governor shall issue and transmit to the Secretary of State a filing a letter of appointment. The letter shall contain the legal authority under which the appointment is made, the proper designation of the office, the full name and address of the appointee, the term of the office. Well, if you do a little research, you'll see this guy has gone through some kind of Senate hearings. Well, then someplace, the Secretary of State shall promptly file the letter and transmittal. Oh, there's that and transmit to the appointee an oath of office, questionnaire for executive appointment, a bond form when required. The recipient of the questionnaire, oath of office, and bond, if required, the Secretary of State shall transmit to an appointee a certificate of appointment under seal. All right, so they're going to send these things out. When they come back, everything's good. They're going to get a certificate of appointment under the seal from the Secretary of State, certifying that the appointment was made of the appointee to the office for the term indicated in the letter of appointment. So, you know, FOIA, I like to see the letter of appointment from the governor, and I like to see the certificate of appointment under the seal from the Secretary of State. If you don't have them, then you're not holding the state office of the Department of Children and Family Services. And this is who we need to talk to. All right, so, hey, simulated legal process using color of law. All them great little things I like to say. But what did we do with this? Well, what did we do this time? What did we do? I did this. I wrote a complaint for Brian, and I attached a few exhibits that, oh, I should have mentioned that. Let's go back to this. All right, so one thing to do is when you go to an agency like this, find out what they call themselves. Florida Department of Children and Families. Why is it going to let me do that? I'll do it this way. I don't need this one. Search for their EIN number. All right, because pretty much every place got to have an EIN number. FEIN. Right, and hey, you can see I've already looked at these before. That's how I found it, just by doing that. And you'll find pieces of paper that will tell you what their EIN number is, and then take the EIN number and put that in Google instead and see what else you can find. All right, so let's see that. But state or Indian tribal organization, Florida. Address, Florida Department of Children and Families. That would be the same place, and there's an EIN number. But the funny thing is what this thing is calling it, state or Indian tribal organization, and I'm going to tell you the capital letter Florida is trying to be an Indian tribal organization. But I got a different way to show you, just to show you how easy it is, right? You put the name in with EIN, you find their EIN number, and, then put the EIN number in and see if you can find any more on it, with and without the dash. As you try to build your own case, so you don't have to call me and say, hey, can you do this for me? No, you can do it, right? Just ABC. So I'm showing you a finished product first, right? This is what I was trying to get to, and everything else I did is what I used to put this together. But the idea is to make a complaint and then get it to somebody, not just research shit to death. So I sent this down to Brian. In accordance with 18 U.S. Code 3332A, and I stay right now before I stop, or before I go any further, we need to look at the style manual because I probably have done this wrong. I think it should be 18 U.S.C. 3332 and none of the other shit in there. 18 space USC space 3332. That's the correct citation method to cite a federal law. Excuse me. However, reasonable minds should be able to say, well, that is what you're trying to say. Because if you put that into Google and search on it, it'll take you to it. I, Brian Keith Taylor, wish this my complaint of alleged wrongdoing by Florida Department of Children and Families, right? That's the buffoons. Here. AKA DCF, be presented by attorney to the special grand jury for this district as mandated in the foregoing criminal statute of the United States. And I don't have the statute in here, but if you look at it, you'll soon see that if you want to, number one, that the special grand jury has a duty to investigate offenses against the criminal statutes of the United States within the district. Okay? They have a duty. And then it says how they can get there. By a court or by an attorney representing the United States to present evidence. And then it goes on to say, if an attorney is presented allegations by a person and the person asks him to give it to the grand jury, well, then the attorney's got a duty to do it. So the question is, what is a attorney representing the United States. And I say, well, that's any attorney who's taken a voluntary oath that includes in it, anywhere in it, but it's always the first part, to support the Constitution of the United States. Okay. By taking a voluntary oath, they became a civil officer within the government of the United States. And so they have a duty to all the laws, not just the state law, county law, whatever they think they were going to do. No, all of them, including the criminal laws of the federal government, whether they like it or not. And so, you just tell them, look, you took a voluntary oath to the United States. You have a duty. You don't do it, you're committing treason. And you just don't take the paper back. And, Brian in his own way has done that, and the dude still has the paper. His whole corporation has the paper, and they're trying to, get him to go someplace else. And no. You have a contract with the Veterans Administration, apparently, and I came here for legal advice, and you said I have a case. Did you not? In fact, this is on Friday, and the guy did agree that, yeah, he has a case. Well, then you need to file it with the special grand jury. And don't give him a chance to breathe. He could tell he rocked him. He said, man, that guy got quiet. He said, yeah, Brian, they ain't never heard this kind of stuff before. They don't have answers for this. They got BS answers for the stuff the sheep will tell them, but they don't have an answer for the truth. So just take her time and go find the truth and make them deal with it. Okay, so here's the facts. It's my belief that with that EIN number, with headquarters located wherever they were, right? These allegations based on the following evidentiary evidence or evidentiary facts. There's an agreement, fee-for-service agreement between this department and this Board of Commissioners, and it lists as legal authorities FS Chapter 2019, Department of Children and Family Services. That's the one we just looked at, and some other ones. Department of Children and Family Services is the state agency established by law, not Florida Department of Children and Families. The Florida Department of Children and Families is not part of the government of the state of Florida, only a usurper of the sovereign powers of state. They're just going to use the coercive power of an agency of the state to extort your property from you. Embezzlement, extortion, take your pick. Number two. Before we look at that, let me go look at the, so you can see. This is how I found this was searching on their EIN number. I said, well, look at this. I found a contract. In which this agreement is entered into between the Board of County Commissioners, hereinafter whoever, and the Florida Department of Children and Families, right? There's no services there. Pretty soon you get to learn that this isn't the right name, right? It should be Y at the end, not IES. But hereinafter known as DCF. And then down here, they're legal authorities. Well, by what legal right do they claim to do this? And they listed the one that I told you. Sorry for them. Number two. Florida Department of Children and Families is listed as a 501c3 public charity on a 2010 return of organization exempt from income tax Form 990, Schedule 1, Part 2. It takes longer to frickin' put that stuff than it does to tell you what's going on, right? But if you're going to write out what it is, well, you need to, I guess, explain it as best you can. Of an organization named MRDC, their FEI number. Okay, where did all that come from? It sounds real difficult, but you just got to copy, right? And this is the thing, is you've got to copy. So again, I had searched the EIN number for the Florida Department and found these people here. And I think I just cut a few pages. Yeah, there it is. Okay, here. View. Where it said was getting tired. Look, too many screwy ass numbers. Florida, 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 Florida. Florida Department of Children. There's their number. 501c3. So I didn't say they were, but these people here said they are. Whoever did this 990 says that Florida, with that number, is a 501c3. You rotate. All right, that was number 2. Close that one. Getting too many things open. All right, and finally, right, pertinent pages incorporated. So all I wanted to show them, the whole reason to go through that whole dog and pony show was to show, hey, somebody said they're a 501c3 on a federal income tax form. So either that's a false statement by the people that said it, or the Florida Department of Children and Families is a 501c3. But I took their EIN number and I went to the IRS site where you can go check on charities, and that doesn't come up as they don't show up there as a 501c3. It ain't my problem. Florida Department of Children and Families is the recipient of federal funding in excess of the threshold for the Office of Management and Budget Compliance Audit. OMBA 133, that's called the Single Budget, I think it is. The Single Budget Act, yep, or Single Audit Act. C, funding request, something attached as Exhibit C, but no evidence has been found to substantiate their compliance as a state agency to a single audit. Oh, well, that would mean they took federal money and they were never audited, and hey, that could be considered tax evasion. And my whole point about this is it's all going to come down to pointing out they're not paying their taxes, because that's what put Al Capone in jail when nothing else could. It appears from Exhibit C, the Florida Department of Children and Families claims to be an Indian tribe and not a state agency. Yeah, we'll look at that too. I believe a special grand jury subpoenas their records. Numerous errors and omissions are to be found in the Florida Department of Children and Families recording records pertaining to myself, Brian Keith Taylor, that would evidence a lack of due process and violation of federal law, right? So go pull my records and let's take a look at what they got for me. The Florida Department of Children and Families used a .com. We talked about that. It is my belief that Secretary Mike Carroll of the Florida Department of Children and Families is not in possession of a certificate of appointment, and we talked about that. So that's all it was, just some facts. Now, I know it's a complaint, but if I'm going to complain, I'm going to ask for a remedy. So, demand for equitable relief. Florida Department of Children and Families is not a state agency of the state of Florida. Evidence suggests it's a criminal organization that, by deceit, has the true ordained civil authority enforce its satanic decrees. Now that I could believe. Oh, they just fooling you guys, cops. You got the bad guys. Come on, you're more like me than anybody. Spent 10 years in the Army. I'm not your enemy. I'm going to tell you who the enemy is. He's in that frickin' office. Just turn around and go arrest him, put his ass in jail, and we can take the rest of the week off. You know, we can all live in peace. No one has to get shot, killed, nothing else. Just go arrest them. They'll go quietly. They'll probably piss their pants on the way, but hey, that's their problem. Florida Department of Children and Families has extorted and embezzled my private wealth and continually disturbs my peace in ways such as having my driving privileges suspended without due process. They just make a phone call and it happens. And, I wanted to put some common law stuff in there. So, disturbing the peace. There is no statute for disturbing the peace. It's as old as time. It's a crime. It's common law. Department of Children and Family Services is the state agency, all right? Department of Children and Family Services is the state agency established by law. And this state agency has never prosecuted a claim against me under the seal of the state of Florida Court of Record. Unless and until it does, I stand innocent of any charge. Demand the return of the unjust gains confiscated from me by the Florida Department of Children and Families using antitrust means. In addition, that the true ordained civil authority takes superintending control over this organization, reunite families, return property, prosecute wrongdoers. In other words, the supernatural increase. If it's good enough for Brian, it's good enough for everybody. Give it all back. By affixing your signature below, you're affirming that you, 1, have read this complaint and know its contents, and 2, believe the alleged violations to be true. And so the thought at the time was, well, now we're going to go find us one of these Latin notaries or civil law notaries or whoever it is other than a notary public that's not going to do it properly because they don't have the right book, or you went to the bank and that's the bank's book, so you can't do it in that book. No, it has to be done by a certain level of notary. Pro notary, that's a good name for him, right? So that's what he was going to do. But the way it worked out, I didn't get this down there in time. He'd already met the guy. We were just going to have the attorney sign it because I think the attorney can witness your signature. We're just talking about somebody witnessing your signature in an official capacity. Not just a witness, but somebody with an official capacity in the state government witnessing your signature. And the idea with these civil law notaries is when they witness your signature, it just became a self-authenticating public record recognized by the state. It is the law, unless somebody's going to rebut it with the same type of paper under the same type of notary. And so we keep going into these administrative hearings that are run under civil law, and we don't bring in anything under notary seal of a civil nature. Only under the seal of a common law notary, which I don't know that that's good or bad. I just know that it's the wrong jurisdiction. Right? They don't speak the same language. So that's how it was in Florida, right? And so I'm not going to go any more to it. So right now, this is sitting with an attorney. They got the weekend to think about it, and we'll see what happens on Monday. But that was phase 1. And then, what did I? Okay, so then I decided, well, I'm going to go look for Michigan to see what I can find. I just did this. This is Saturday, right? So I did this morning. And ours is, well, you just have to kind of step through things to see where it leads you. So one of them was on this website, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. That's who it's under. And just so you know right now, that's the wrong department. At that link took you to this page here. And I don't like to read off these. It makes it too hard to do a video, so just so you know where it came from. But it's this section right here, where it says the Michigan State Distribution Unit. See, that there is a proper name for an entity, and it's known as MISDU. Federal law mandates that each state create a centralized state distribution unit to collect and distribute child support payments. Michigan law, MCL 400.236. Well, we should probably go look at that. And we will in just a second. And it was enacted to provide authority for the Michigan State Disbursement Unit to fulfill this federal requirement. So again, this is claiming to be a proper name of some entity. And everything only has one proper name. This is the other thing. You only have one proper name. You may have fictitious names, nicknames, but you only have one proper name, proper legal name. Just like they do plants, right? Every plant's got a name. What is it? If you really want to know, it only has one name. It may be called a lot of things, but in science, it's whatever that Latin word is. Words. The MISDU provides single location where all support payments are received and dispersed in Michigan. The MIDSU processes $1.6 billion annually. Man, they're moving some money. And hey, they got a .com site. It's always anything's got a .com, right? You want to pay attention to because, well, that isn't the government. It would be a .gov. But what does this 400.236 say? It says this. The State Disbursement Unit, the SDU, is established as the direct responsibility of the office. Okay, so some office is responsible for the SDU. Keep that in your head for just a second. The SDU shall use automated procedures. Okay, we don't need to know that. The SDU is the single location to which payer or source of income subject to this section shall send support or fee payment. So if you're not sending it to this SDU unit, that's the responsibility of this office, then you're not sending your payments to the right office. And so now the question is this SDU office, whatever this office is with this SDU, is it the one they're talking about here, the Michigan State Disbursement Unit, which says was enacted to provide authority for them to do this? Well, technically that's true, right? Because these people could be contractors hired to fulfill or to do the work of the state. Agency, again. But let's go further. Well, okay, so what did this have to say? Well, as it turns out, it's called an Office of Child Support. Office of Child Support established. The Office of Child Support is established in the department. Okay, so here we go again. Now, what's the department? We got to figure out where the department is, because that's where the office is. And just so you know, this part we're reading, this 236, is part of the same law. It just happened this is 232. Eventually, we're going to get to that little section there. But right now, we're going to look at some definitions. So what's meant by office? The Office of Child Support. Right? So when this said up here, responsibility of the office, they mean the Office of Child Support. So the State Disbursement Unit is established as the direct responsibility of the Office of Child Support. Well, then the Michigan State Disbursement Unit isn't the one that they were talking about. Right? This isn't the Office of Child Support. Where does it say Office of Child Support? It doesn't say Office of Child Support. It's not the Office of Child Support. Department means the Family Independent Agency. Well, you got to watch that peanut, because that's what it meant when this was written, and it will change in the blink of an eye. But what we know is that you're supposed to send your this is what I do. I just keep going back. So what do I know so far? Well, I know that the SDU is where I'm supposed to send my payments, and that's if I was going to have to pay child support, that's what it needs to go to. Or if I have a complaint, that's what I need to talk to. And it's under the responsibility of some office. And now we know that that office is the Office of Child Support. And the Office of Child Support is established in the department. And the department is the called the Family Independence Agency. Whew. Okay, let's continue on. What do I have that one for? Oh, this is okay. So now this one is basically, without getting too much into it, SDU. But if a contractor operates State Disbursement Unit, that's who MISDU is. They're a contractor. They better be, or they're just a complete usurper, but they're a contractor operating the State Disbursement Unit. The contractor is directly responsible to the office. Well, who's the office? It's the Office of Child Support. The Office of Child Support shall not enter into a contract for operation of the SDU unit the state budget director until the state budget director approves the contract provision that governs the accounting system to be used by the contractor. So FOIA, whoever this guy ends up being, to see if he ever approved any contract to allow the SDU to be put in the hands of a private organization. Because they don't claim, right, that isn't what they're claiming. They're claiming that on this page that they're part of the Department of Health and Human Services. Right? Not the Family Independent Service like it just talked about, and not the Office of the Child Support like it talked about. No, the MSD unit is in the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And we're going to find out, well, that doesn't exist either. We're almost there. I mean, it doesn't take long to figure this out. Once you know, I know it. I don't know if it looks difficult or not. Depends on how long you're going to work at it. So remember that from earlier, the department means the Family Independence Agency. And sure enough, there is one. The Family Independence Agency is found at this site. All right, Michigan Civil Service Commission, Family Independence Agency. Well, that you would say, well, this is the people that we're supposed to be dealing with today. All right, well, what does it say about them? And if you're looking for a career in human services and interested in helping people improve their lives, Family Independence Agency is the place for you. Family Independence Agency helps to improve the quality of life in Michigan by protecting children. Wow, sounds really great. These are wonderful people. They got 13,000 employees. And again, right? Department meant the Family Independence Agency. So, if nothing else, these would be the people you would complain to, because they're supposed to be over the Office of Child Support, about something to do with the disbursement unit in your child support. Not the MISDU. But it gets even better, right? So, in this particular law, Family Independence Agency, this is the problem with this. This needs to be here. Well, the Social Welfare Act of Act 280 of 1939, it said, the Department of State Government is created and shall be known and designated as the Family Independence Agency. Okay, good. But then here, you know, and this is how they hide it. I mean, you know, sometimes it takes a while to find it. For renaming Family Independence Agency to Department of Human Services, CERO 2004. How? They took what used to be called the Family Independence Agency, of which there still is a place called the Family Independence Agency. However, the one that's the state office has been changed to the Department of Human Services. And that isn't the same as the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Right? Here we go again. It ain't the same name. And then it went on to say the Family Independence Agency renamed, because I went and looked at that ERO, right? Executive Reorganization Order. Renamed to Department of Human Services. Whereas Michigan Constitution 1963, which I do know that's not the proper way to cite the Constitution. Whereas the Department of Social Services was renamed the Family Independent Agency in 1995, looks like. Whereas the Family Independence Agency is the state's public assistance, child, family welfare agency focused on protecting children and vulnerable adults. Right? There is such a place, but it doesn't have the same name anymore. But those are the powers it had. So renaming the Family Independence Agency will more effectively communicate its status as the principal department and its mission focused on provisions of social services and family. And soon you learn that this is all they do. They're always, always, always changing the names of agencies or offices or departments or whatever. And at some point, Jennifer M. Granholm, by virtue of the power of authority vested in the governor of the Michigan Constitution of 1963 and Michigan law, orders the Family Independence Agency is renamed to the Department of Human Services. Any and all statutory references to Family Independence Agency and Department of Social Services shall be deemed reference to the Department of Human Services. So now you need to incorporate everywhere in the law you see Family Independence Agency or Department of Social Services that they really mean now the Department of Human Services. And according to, just real quick, so according to the proper way to cite, and this is the Michigan Appeals Court saying this, in running text, the Constitution may be referred to in the following ways: the 1963 Michigan Constitution. And here they said the Michigan Constitution 1963, ass backwards. That's what they like to do. Note, the Constitution and the Michigan Constitution are both acceptable after first full reference if the short form will not cause confusion. So you can't just say the Constitution or the Michigan Constitution unless you've said the 1963 Michigan Constitution. You could put Michigan's 1963 Constitution. All right, so these are different kinds of forms you could use. But none of them were the Michigan Constitution 1963. It's because the governor really isn't elected. You know, this again, they don't have that. They don't have them certificates. That's one reason that dude in Florida can't have a certificate of election, or he can't have a certificate of appointment from the governor or any place, because the governor isn't really elected. Okay, what was this one? This was another executive order. They're transferring duties from one thing to another, and I don't know why I had this. Oh, the Department of Human Services means the principal department of state government created as the Department of Social Services under Section 450 of the Executive Reorganization Act of 1965, renamed the Family Independence Agency under 1995, and rename the Department of Human Services under Executive Order, whatever. Right? Pretty clear that it's clear as mud that the Family Independence Agency that we started with way back up here, Department Family Independence Agency, by reference now is the Department of Human Services. And so I wanted to go look to see if any of these places existed, right? So, well, there's the Department of Human Services, but they don't have any address. There's no phone number. There's no way to get a hold of them. But they're writing something to the Friends of the Court, the prosecutor and attorneys, and the Office of Child Support, talking about the MISDU. Changes to the Michigan State Disbursement Unit, billing sheet coupons, right? I'd like to talk to these people. So if you're in the state of Michigan, especially if you're like a state cop or something that's paying child support, you might have a little bone with this. Man, this is the thing that ought to get somebody righteous who is oathed, has an oath, has a badge, and is armable, peace officer, to go enforce the law. Right, because these people aren't the law. But there is a Department of Human Services. They're not given the address. Here's that Family Independence Agency, and this is from the year 2000, and they said it changed in 2004. Well, there you go. This is 2000. It was the Family Independence Agency, and it did have an address. It's on Grand Avenue. I don't know what that is, because it's a P.O. box. I don't know what's there. But I'm going to figure out what's at Grand Avenue and say, well, that's where the state offices are. All right. Here's another one. Same thing. It's on Grand Avenue. That's where the state office is. All right. I don't know what's at Grand Avenue, actually, but this says there's state offices there. And the MISDU, right, the one that wants to be the place where you're supposed to send your payments to, it's under the Health and Human Resources. Right, where does it say that? Oh, right here, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Not resources, services. State Disbursement Unit is established as a direct responsibility of the office, and the office is the Office of Child Support. Right? It isn't this office. This is the wrong place to be sending your payments to. It's an entity trying to act as your agent between you and the state. It's the same thing that Consumers Energy is doing. Right? They're not the utility. They don't have a franchise with the township. They don't really exist. But there they are, taking your payments, shutting off your power. This was just the act, right? So, Office of Child Support. That's really how I got started. I just kind of Googled like child support Michigan, and eventually found a law that took me into the Michigan compiled statutes, which I've been in enough to know you can word search them, and started to word search stuff. Right, so it really depends on how they call things where you are, how you're going to find them, because they don't call things the same all over. Yeah, Department of Human Services. Yeah, there they are. Okay, well, right. That's so I haven't written anything up for these people yet. I'm just showing you, hey, they're as crooked as the people down in Florida. They are. So, before I go to the next thing, I'm going to ask you, if you can, I really do need your help. I need your dollars. Yeah. PayPal account is ashleyrytlewski@gmail.com. ASHLEYRYTLEWSKI@gmail.com, or snail mail, Robert Rytlewski, 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast, Rockford, Michigan, 49341. This kind of stuff I do doesn't happen in a day. I spend all my time at it. I'm not going to go take a job for 10, 15, 20 bucks an hour when I can show you that, these people aren't who they say they are. I just can't do anything about it yet. But the first thing is to make it as plain as the right nose on your face that these people are not who they say they are, and so that you can say it in confidence. So I had one more thing, because I did one other complaint that, well, two things actually. So here's something that everybody can get involved in until we get the answer. Because there is a handbook for federal grand jurors, right? And I tell you what, I need just a second anyway, so I'm going to pause. I'll be right. Okay, we're just about done. I wanted to show a few things to make sure I'd covered them. So this is a style manual for the Appeals Court of Michigan, where it says for federal statutes, 11 U.S.C. 29, just like that is fine. All right, so it doesn't have to be U.S. code the way I did it, and all these other things, and so and it goes through all these other ones, but that was the main one for what I was showing. 11 U.S. code. I don't want to go spend any time on that. Let's go to this. So there are two things. Was the law had pointed out before is 18 U.S. code. That's where I got it from, 3332. Where it says, it shall be the duty of each such grand jury and panel within any judicial district to inquire into offenses against the criminal laws of the United States alleged to have been committed within the district. Such alleged offenses may be brought to the attention of the grand jury by the court or by an attorney appearing on behalf of the United States for the presentation of evidence. Any such attorney receiving information concerning such an alleged offense from any other person shall, if requested by such other person, inform the grand jury of such alleged offense, the identity of the such other person, and such attorney's action or recommendation. So it's the duty of the grand jury to investigate, so they, they have a duty to investigate, and if you're trying to bring it to them to investigate and an attorney won't take it to them, he'd be guilty of obstruction of justice. And, you just need to tell them that. Well, obstruction of justice, treason, whatever, and you just harp on them. So that's one way to do it. We're trying to get it to the grand jury. At least I am. And the reason for that, and dang it, I should have taken the time to get that. What do they call that? Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights, Section 5. As good as any. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. except in cases arising in the land, naval, air force, and militia, when actual service at time of war or public danger, yada, yada, yada. So one way to do it is, the only way they have to answer for a crime is, I don't know what they mean by the presentment, unless on a presentment, well, who do they mean by that? Or indictment of a grand jury. So let's get an indictment of the grand jury. Otherwise, they don't have to even come and, even act like you ever said they did anything wrong. So we're trying to get the grand jury to indict them. And in this handbook for federal grand jurors, on page 4, where it says the grand jury task, as stated above. Well, let me read this one paragraph. The grand jury is not completely free to compel a trial of anyone it chooses. The United States Attorney must sign the indictment before one may be prosecuted. So that's after the indictment's been given that the state attorney has to do something. The United States Attorney has to do something. Thus, the government and the grand jury act as checks on each other. This assures that neither may arbitrarily wield the awesome power to indict a person of a crime. So that must be the civil authority. Let's wield the civil authority and indict somebody with a crime. The grand jury's task, as stated above, the federal grand jury's function is to determine whether a person shall be tried for a serious federal crime alleged to have been committed within the district where it sits. Matters may be brought to its attention in 3 ways. 1, by the United States Attorney or the Assistant United States Attorney. And that's the United States Attorney up here that has to sign the indictment before one may be prosecuted. Now, I say that's the judge. He's the United States Attorney. But even if he isn't, 2, by the court that impaneled it, well, you would think that would certainly be the judge, right? Because whenever there's a jury involved, the jury is the judge, and the judge is the administrative officer. He's like the clerk of the court, right? But the jury is the judge. They're going to try the fact. And from the personal knowledge of a member of the grand jury. So actually there's 4, because then there's a or from matters properly brought to the member's personal attention. Well, they like to tell you that the grand jury is secret. They like to tell you all sorts of things. Roe called the judge's office to ask him about the grand jury stuff, and they said you need to talk to the state's attorney. United States Attorney, and that's, so then she called the jury office after we looked at this, and whoever she talked to had never heard about this before. Said, look, you got to call the United States Attorney, and gave her a phone number. Now, she had to go to work, so she didn't get a chance to call that number yet, but it's like, oh, okay, well, if it's not the same number as what they give in the book, well, maybe it is the United States Attorney to talk to. I don't know, so we're going to call it and find out. But until then, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, because this is an or, there's 4 ways to get something before the grand jury. Let's go find one that works. That's all I'm saying. So, one of those is by an attorney representing, so I think that is what covers this or from matters properly brought to a member's personal attention, which would be an attorney representing the United States who you've given the information to, giving it to them. But with all that said, I had decided, well, an attorney that represents the United States for sure, that would have to be a JAG, judge advocate. They have to be representing the United States. Let me send them a complaint. All right, so to whom it may concern, alert your commanding officer in accordance with 18 U.S.C. 3332. I am in need of an attorney to submit my allegations of offenses against the criminal laws of the United States to the special grand jury. Read for yourself. And there's what we just read. It's the duty of the grand jury to investigate allegations It's my duty to report them, and it's the duty of the attorney appearing on behalf of the United States to present my allegations to the special grand jury. I believe a judge advocate has a duty to report my allegations to the special grand jury. What say you? Could it not be construed as obstruction of justice for any oath-bound attorney not to submit these allegations? I've tried numerous times to bring crimes against the laws of the United States to the attention of law enforcement, presumed judiciary members, attorneys, and counselors at law. Unfortunately, without success, they are part of the problem. What say you? Your first assignment is very simple. By the numbers allegation. Number 1, Planned Parenthood Federation of America, Incorporated, claims to be a public charity, incorporated under 501c, according to their IRS, right? According to their form. The IRS mandates that entities incorporated as 501c3, public charities, shall not participate directly or indirectly with campaign financing. I'm not talking about lobbying. I'm talking about financing. They cannot be involved in campaign financing, directly or indirectly. Go read it yourself. Ask whoever keeps putting the blah blah they put on my stuff. Federal Election Commission records and its Form 990 testify to the fact that Planned Parenthood Federation of America, Inc. does participate directly and indirectly in election campaign financing. You can go to the Federal Election Commission site, put in Planned Parenthood, and read all the hits on them with how they're involved. You don't have to. It's not that they even have to give money. They just have to be somehow involved in campaign financing. Well, the Election Commission website for campaign financing has their name all over the place. I think Hillary Clinton's like their largest recipient. Their breach of faith. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, it's a breach of faith because they said they were a public charity and they lied. The breach of faith resulted in an ipso facto termination of all presumed tax exemptions due a public utility charity, rendering them a for-profit corporation. Right? They may have said they were, but they're not, because the first time they gave any money to a campaign, did anything, well, ipso facto, they just terminated their exemption. PPFA is still claiming to be tax-exempt public charity, according to public disclosure information found on their website. This is a false statement in a federal matter and an evasion of taxes. Al Capone, again. Planned Parenthood is in violation of 2 U.S. Code 441B, 2 U.S. Code 7201, and 18 U.S. Code 1001, and the Commerce Clause of the Constitution at a minimum. I could have gone on, but I really didn't want to. And I don't want to go through all these. But basically, that was, sent to a JAG officer. We need to find an attorney that's going to give it to the special grand jury. And that attorney could be a judge. And so I got one more thing to show, because this may be important as we go down the road here. How they do this. Western District of Michigan, United States District Court. Let's look at the judges first. If you look at all these other judges over here, right, they all use a middle initial. The Chief Judge, Robert J. Judge Paul L. Janet T. Gordon J. R. Allen Edgar. Well, one guy doesn't. Robert Holmes Bell. And as it turns out, his son is apparently a well-known evangelist. Good Christian man, apparently, right? So chances are his dad is too. And I'm always looking for the guy that's using their proper name. That's who I want to talk to. So I sent him I sent him a letter. I just don't know where I put it. What did I send to him? Is it up here? Oh, I just got somebody open. I don't know who I sent things to anymore. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I sent one to the judge. Basically, I sent him a copy of this complaint here to him, asking him if he could please get it before the grand jury. I just ran out of time on Friday to do it live. But this is so. Rose said in Illinois, there's one judge got the same thing. Proper name. And when you look that proper name up, and I haven't done it yet for him, but I'm sure it'll be the same, but I should look it up for you. Say that it is the way they use it on the state bar website. And so it's, okay, they're using the name that's on their license, right? They're not using a middle initial name. Because if I'm not mistaken, especially in Illinois, they have their names properly on the website, but it isn't the way they're writing them down on paper. They're using middle initials. But they have the name that they registered in listed on the website. They may have changed that since we've been bringing all this stuff up about them, but if not, then it is. And one other thought, see, this guy has got a court reporter, and a court reporter can take your oath. It's like, man, I wonder if this is the guy that we're supposed to give our complaint to. Because he makes a public record. He can give you oath, or any court reporter as far as that goes, that they could properly authenticate your signature, because that's what we're trying to do, get our signature witnessed by somebody that has the full power of the state behind their signature. And unfortunately, the notaries that we're using they're not in the right jurisdiction. They're in the County of Kent. I need somebody that's in Kent County. Right? So I don't know that they're different. How different they are, I don't really know. Right? I'm just saying there must be a difference. And so I'm going to call Kevin Monday, get his email address, fax him what I put in the mail to the judge, who should get it Monday, because I got it in the mail this morning, before the mailman left. And we'll see what he does with it. But full speed ahead, man. We got to find a way to get something to the grand jury, and this one law is just so powerful that, we need to beat them over the head with it. Any attorney that you can. If you've got an attorney involved in the case, you tell them, hey, this is a criminal matter, and you need to take it to the federal grand jury and see what he says. Okay. That's how it goes, right? These agencies aren't the state. They're corporations that have become agents of the state, but not agencies of the state, just agents. They're private companies contracted in to do a business, or that's how they're making it look. But they're between you and the entity you're supposed to be contacting. Right? If I got a complaint, I'm not going to the agent. I'm going to go to the state. And if they keep me from going to the state or the utility, which is what Consumers Energy is doing, right, then they're interfering with my ability to participate in commerce, and that's against the Constitution. And just right to the beginning, just common law. Well, the Constitution says I have a right to commerce and participate in commerce, and you're impeding it, right? If you impede my ability to contract, you broke the law. That's antitrust. We're going to bring up lots of antitrust stuff and get them on tax evasion. So, okay, y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you. Take care.